Hello, hello world. Happy Monday. All right. Good afternoon, good evening. Alyssa, can you hear me?
I can. Yes.
All
You
right.
sound great.
All right. So, welcome back to Coded Live. I'm your host, Sam Basu. With me, I have the gorgeous Alyssa Nicoll here. Now, if you are joining us as a part of the other streams that we normally do, this will be a little different because this is actually a user group meeting that we used to love to host in person. But hey, we're all living through a global pandemic. At least we get to hang out on the internets. So this is actually the Columbus App Dev user group, and this is our speaker tonight. So glad to have you. All right, so let's see. We are on, and before we start, or hand it off to Alyssa here. And Alyssa, do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah. So, mic check. I'm assuming okay volume. I can. Okay. Awesome. Welcome. Alyssa Nicoll here. I'm a developer advocate on the Kendo UI team at Progress. I specialize in Angular and UI things, but I'm starting to learn .NET. What? Yeah. And you say .NET, that's not a thing. There's a lot of things under that. Yeah, I'm learning all of it. And so just as a preface of watch out .NET world. So
you're learning very fast.
But yes, I'm so excited to be here with this user group, Sam. So tell us more. Right. What deets do you have for us?
Yeah, well, this is the time at the user group where we normally have pizza delivered, and we play some ping pong, we play some board games, but
man, greasy Meetup pizza. How long has it been since you've had a slice of greasy Meetup pizza? It's been
a while.
A long time, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's actually have me share my screen real quick. Let's see. All right, moved it off to a different monitor, and where's my share screen? I think we are, see, yep. All right, hang on. Yeah, not that. There we go. Now we're talking. All right, cool. So, yeah, like I said, welcome to the user group. This is the Columbus App Dev user group, and you can find us online. That's our website. That's Meetup. We are on the Twitters, and we meet right here, third Mondays. When we were in person, there's a wonderful office at Improving Ohio where we used to meet, but that hasn't happened since 2020, I think early 2020. We are hoping to get together, and so we do get some of the regulars here on stream. So we are planning maybe a holiday get together, kind of within the comforts of, or within the safety guidelines, but we'll see if we can get together for the holidays. Here are some of the folks that help our user group with swag, which we can't give out unless we're in person, but we appreciate them nonetheless. We do acknowledge some of the things that kind of go around around us regionally as well as on a national level. This is our sister user group. This is the Columbus.NET user group, and looks like so they meet fourth Thursday, and some months it happens to be on the same week, which is this week. So it looks like this Thursday they are on, and our good friend Robert Bodiheimer is talking about performance tuning your web applications, which I would bet he's talking about Fiddler, because like some of the things he talks about are pretty much in the.
Is this like a spoilers alert? Like I wasn't supposed to say it's Fiddler, but it's Fiddler.
Yeah, he doesn't say it, but that sounds pretty much like what Fiddler does, the optimizations. So I'm looking forward to that on Thursday. We have All Things Open. So these are some of the conferences that are coming up in the near future. I think I tried lining them up per the timeline. So mid-October, we got All Things Open coming up in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's a hybrid event, so some in person, some streamed online. We have DevReach coming up. That's late October. Alyssa, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, I'm super, because that's a word. I'm super excited. I'm just going with it now. About DevReach. It's usually traditionally in Bulgaria, but this year it will be in Boston. And It's going to be a 3-day event, very polyglot in its own right, right? There's a JavaScript day, a miscellaneous accessible, like IoT, UX, UI day, and then there's a .NET day as well. And so it's a 3-day conference, and it's coming back this October. So the website should be updated with speaker details and location details and all of everything this Thursday. So check it out.
Perfect. Yeah. So this one's hybrid too. So we'll have some speakers join us in person in Boston, and we're going to live stream the whole thing for 3 days. So it should be fun. All right, we have .NET Conf coming up for those of us in the .NET space. That's early November. This is the launch of .NET 6. So it should be a fun time. Lots of announcements, lots of good things happening. This is also a 3-day thing, live streamed pretty much 24/7 with community support all around the world. So looking forward to that. And our user group actually partners with 1105 Media, which is the company that puts together VS Live. They do lots of shows all around the country. But again, things have been on a hiatus with the pandemic, but they are coming back with a bang again mid-November, kind of right after .NET Conf. We're all getting together at VS Live in Orlando, which is going to be super fun. They're actually combining 3-4 conferences all together, so not just .NET.
Oh wow, cool.
Things. Yeah, so that should be fun. That's mid-November, and again, if you are going, we get a big discount as a part of the user group. All right, next month we have my favorite Twitter handle, Integer Man, which is actually Matt Eland. He's local to Columbus. He's just wonderful. He's a developer at heart, but he has taken on the thing that we don't do enough. That's teaching other people how to code and how to be better at what we do. So he's going to come on and talk about architectures and scalability. So looking forward to that. And September, drum rolls, we have the gorgeous Alyssa Nicoll here with us. And you wanted to talk about UI styling, right? And how to make things a little more accessible.
Oh, it's so much more than that. I can't wait. It's going to be great.
All right, let's get into it. All right, so I'm going to stop right here. And let's see if I can find my mouse or my pointer. And stop. And whenever you're ready, I will let you bring up your desktop.
Yay. Okay. I'm going to go with the doing and the sharing now. This one, I think. So excited. Hey, if you're in the chat, why don't you shout out and tell us where you're joining us from? I'm assuming since it's a local user group, you're all in the same place. But you never know. You never know.
Yeah. We get a mix. Yeah, we get a mix of folks who are local.
Let me know where you're joining us from today. I am in the sunny central U.S. in Oklahoma. All right, let me share my screen. And
so Alyssa and me actually got to hang out in person last week, which was so exciting.
It was so exciting. And was it was it weird for you? It was a little weird for me because I was just like, I don't know, like a dream almost, where I'm like, is this really happening? Is this all right? I like to have the Conrad, Ohio. I don't know why, but when you first were like, Ohio meetup, I was like, you're associated with Ohio, the state?
That's
what?
True.
I was.
I lived in Columbus, Ohio for 6-8 years, and I've since moved over to Pennsylvania and never let go of my Ohio connections.
Nice. I was gonna say, you're not still there? You are?
No,
you're not.
No.
You are not.
No.
Okay.
No. Conrad, good to see you. All right, so
so you can see this, I assume.
Yes.
And so I only have a couple slides today. Just to open us up. And then we're going to be live coding and talking about, as you could have guessed it, CSS in some form or capacity. Originally, this talk was about maintainable styles and accessible styles. But as I kind of dove in more and more to that topic, I ran across something called inclusive components or inclusive styles. And so it's really just one big monologue about a girl who loves the front of the front end. And so I'm excited to share what I've learned recently and in the past, and just kind of have a good discussion. So please interrupt me at any point and with questions or comments, or maybe you have better ideas on how to do these things. But at the end, I hope you've learned something towards making your code and your styles a little bit more maintainable, accessible, inclusive. So this is an excerpt from a book that I'll show you the link to in a minute. But essentially, I wanted to show it because it's called Inclusive Components by Hayden Pickering. And it really opened my eyes to just like, first of all, what is inclusive, right? But also what is accessible, because I hear that term thrown around so often. And so I love this part that's bolded here. Supporting screen reader software is supporting screen reader software, not blind people. And this book was so killer. I highly recommend everyone go and check it out right now. This is a horrible link to it, but I'm actually going to just I'll pull it up in a minute. But this book was beautiful because not only did it talk about how to make your components inclusive, how to bring accessibility in, but it showed real examples of doing that, which I just found just mind-boggling. So we will check out that book in a moment, but I'm going to open up with a quote, if I will, an Alyssa quote. 90% of accessible code means using semantic markup. And that's just like an absolute made up statistic by yours truly, but I really believe it with all my heart. I think 90% of things start with using the correct markup, the correct HTML. And then from there, the other 10% is just augmenting that semantic markup and layering in things like ARIA to help with assistive technologies. And so throughout, I'm going to go ahead and go here, and we're going to open up Codepen because I think we're ready. We're ready to get out of Keynote. I'm going to main screen now.
There's going to be no dearth of dumb questions with me around.
I'm so excited. Okay, so we will be, I'm going to hide this. We will be in Codepen today, which is just a way of writing code in the browser and seeing it render instantly. But I'm also going to pull up, because I promised, a promise is a promise, this book.
The book, yeah.
The book, because it's really great stuff. And yeah, there it is. And I will plop-a-dop it in said chat as well, which I have pulled up off to the side so I can see if anyone's chatting at me. But yes, this is the book that talks about just, it's so beautiful, accessible, and inclusive components. So check it out. But I will be kind of touching on a couple things that I've learned from it, but it's a thick one. So there's lots more where that came from.
Yeah, and I like the fact that it is actually showing you how to build stuff that's accessible, not just it's walking the talk.
Yeah, no, and I think that it can be so, my talk that I gave recently was last week. It was about, I'm going to go ahead and do this real quick. It was about beginner UI and beginner Angular. And it was a really, really cool audience because it wasn't just like JavaScripters. There's a lot of .NET people in the audience who were wanting to set up. One person came up to me and he was saying how his company was looking at Angular versus React for their front end, ASP.NET on the back end, and he just wanted to know what he was getting into if he recommended Angular. And so there was also quite a few people there following along that were just really curious about how to get better at UI. And so I love this talk because I'm hopefully going to sprinkle in some accessibility tidbits, some juicy tidbits, but that won't be overwhelming. And that really is what it should be, right? As you go through, because it seems like a never-ending list of things that you can do, right? But do what you can for the components that you have control over and let go of the rest. So, because at the end of the day, hey, Ed, what up? Oh, mwah! I was on this morning with him, and we kind of went on a CSS tangent there too. So check out the recording. It
is funny though that how we are starting to talk the same language, because when you said semantic markup a few years back as a XAML developer, as a .NET developer, I wouldn't quite understand what you meant, but things are starting to be more consistent because even for the older people like us, they're using the same languages and the same type of properties to lighten up those things in other markup languages.
I am the user group speaker, Ed, and
Yes.
Fuel made a joke, I think. There's a wink at it.
GUI.cs?
Does anyone know what GUI.cs is? What is that? Is that a thing, Sam? I don't know what that is.
I don't know.
You don't know. He's making it.
Pushnavel is known to make some good ones. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He said he's always trolling. How do I do the thing with the thing? I think I did it. Excellent. All right. So let's get started. I'm going to be showing off 2 different assistive technologies today because they are the ones that I have access to. But I will reference a couple others, and my whole goal of this is to encourage you to open up a screen reader. That's right. If you're building some code and you've never opened up a screen reader, you too don't have to be afraid. It's really not that scary. So we'll be touching on VoiceOver for Mac OS today and Chromevox for Google Chrome. And then, yes, did we get a message about things and people and talking?
No, I got the messages, so you can focus. I got the chat room. Yep.
Awesome. All right. So as you can imagine, we're going to be building a to-do. Yeah, you guessed it, to-do app today. So we're going to start off with an input type text.
Can you make the
bigger,
text a little bit
larger,
bigger? Yeah, like
more
source,
chubby in the general direction? Is that too?
Okay, let me really pushing it.
Is that too much? Let me know.
I've never heard code or fonts being called chubby, so we can see that.
All right, hang on. That might be a little. Let me try this. Let me do this and do that. Okay, is that okay?
Yes, perfect.
Okay,
perfect.
awesome. Yeah. So we have an input with a type of text, placeholder of new item. Excellent. It's showing up on the screen. That's wonderful. We couldn't ask for more in our lives. And a button. Let's make it type submit because she'll be for submitting our bad boy to-do items. And we want a plus, right? We want a plus. That's what the styles, the specs require. I'm going to hide this JavaScript. We will get there, but for now, we're just going to mark up and CSS. So we've got our input, we've got our button. Me personally, I don't feel comfortable with our font size. That's just, so I'm gonna just real quick make this happen. Font size.
While you're typing, there's no like, nothing else loaded up on this page, right? So when you say
Correct.
A plus, like does it always like show up as a plus with a bold? Like, is that a special type of font?
Yeah, I'm getting yelled at for not saving my changes. So let's just go ahead and make this. What's the user group's name again? It's really long. It's like Columbus something.
App dev user group.
Yeah. Columbus. Hang on, I'm gonna get it. Our dash is allowed. Dev.
Yep.
User group. Did it work? It worked. Awesome. Beautiful. So you too can be, if you want to follow along. And I will give you a, like you can refresh this as you go, or you can fork it and follow along, or I will give you an end final code, we ended here type of situation as well. So don't stress about it. And you can probably cheat and go find it in my Codepen library if you want it. Okay. So I'm also going to, yes, this is all browser defaults. This is what you're looking at. This is the CSS, this is the markup, and this is what we're given. And it's gorgeous, right? I've never wanted anything more from a website. I'm going to give our input and our button some joint padding just to sexy things up for a second. Is this what's the stream rated? Am I allowed to say that?
No, you just use it as a verb.
I apologize if that's rude. Okay, so we have our input, we have our button. We've got some very basic styles. So let's start laying on some accessibility best practices and patterns that I have discovered. The first thing to be conscious of is an empty state. Have you heard of an empty state, Sam?
No.
I know, right? Like this is something that the book goes into, but then I've also, as I started like researching it and looking it up more, and like they talk about the empty state of your application, and something to be conscious of, because whether they just got here and this is their first time seeing this page or your app in general, or maybe it's been a while, been a hot minute, and they're coming back to it. Sometimes it can be, especially whenever it's more than just an input A button, right? It's overwhelming. And so some pointers that you can do. You want to have really helpful placeholders. So new item is okay, but if this was a longer form, it's not like new item for what, right? What is this input? So have a descriptive placeholder is thing number one. And I'm just going to do e.g. buy milk. And then the next is, well, in general, when you think of empty state, you should think there's something to do here. There's still something that you need to do. And that's what you're trying to help your user understand. So something really fun that we can do, we're going to go ahead and create a UL. And this is where our to-do items will belong. I'm going to make a little to-do items here. So another thing that you can do in the empty state is if our UL is empty. Hey, I'm so sorry. I have Rocket on. TJ, one of our dev advocates, actually got me onto Rocket, but I'm going to quit that so you won't be pestered. Okay. So we are going to, below our empty state, create, let's do a div with, I'm going to copy this because I just closed the thing that generates emojis for me, and we cannot, I repeat, cannot live our life.
We could have to-do life of emojis.
We can't live without emojis. Okay,
so I want to come back one more time, like while you're doing this. So, like the way you're describing empty state is often like my first view of your app, and you're trying to maybe guide me to say there's something to be done and not get the user overwhelmed or make it confusing. Yeah. So it's easier for someone to understand what is it that they are supposed to do.
Exactly, and I think a couple of things I'm going to mention, like, make sure your placeholders are very descriptive. Include labels, which we're going to get to in a minute. When you can, make sure the button, right, like the action item, is as descriptive as possible. Those are all great things, but you can also even include things like text, right, that like points the user towards what's happening. So we have this empty state here. It's literally a div with a class of empty state. And what we want to do is display that when the UL is empty and the empty state is true. And we want to hide it when there are to-do items in the UL. So we can actually use this :empty to talk to the sibling, which is empty state. And we can say, when it's empty, I want you to be display block. And then our default state, by default, we'll just hide it. So display none. Perfect. Okay. So we haven't added the functionality to add items yet, which we'll get to, but I can just, fake that by adding items in the UL. And voila, the item shows up in the UL and our empty state message disappears. So I love this pseudo selector here that you can say when it's empty, but there's a couple of caveats to this empty that I want you to be aware of. Right now, I actually used to keep this to-do items here inside of our UL. I did. And wouldn't you just know it, our empty state is hidden, and that's because it counts, it's not empty. So also, if you have, if you just move your comments out of here, and you simply have, an enter, right? It's on a new line. That new line character actually counts as it not being empty. So as of CSS4, that will no longer be the case. You won't have to worry about spaces or enters or new lines or anything. But right now, if you want to utilize the little empty selector bud, make sure that there's no comments or extra lines or anything. But I love that. I think it's super, I just love that. I think it's amazing. And it's a really easy way to do it with just CSS.
Okay, as a web noob here, we're on CSS 3, right? Forever?
Yeah. Oh,
is
forever?
CSS 4 coming?
Yeah. Yes, it is coming. CSS 4 is coming. There's so many game changers in CSS 4.
When is this coming?
I don't know. Does anybody know? How would we know this? Ed, are you still in the chat? Ed would know. He knows these things off the top of his head. I just know a couple of the cool items in the spec. I don't have dates.
So something like empty state, which I thought you would start out saying that it's a concept of how you do or you think about accessibility. It is more like it's kind of ingrained in the markup as like HTML5 knows what empty state is for every UI element.
It knows that an element can be empty, right? And so with that, then the concept of empty state, or the beginning of what, maybe it's a form that you're working on filling out, when that form is at its beginning, at its empty state, making sure that you have these little things, like whether they're, I think oftentimes these things can be hints. So right now, this is a hint that we don't have any to-do items, right? That's our hint. But sometimes, even with like Kendo UI items, we have error messages and hints that belong to the input that will show or hide based on if they're, if there's nothing there, or if you erased everything and you're trying to type it out. Things can be really helpful. And so the next thing I'm so excited to get to. So we talked a little bit about empty state. Let's go ahead and crack open VoiceOver. And Sam, I might need your help on this spot because I want to share. I need to share my audio. I need to share my audio from my computer so we can hear the voiceover. And I don't know, there's some way of doing that. Oh, I think it happens when I share screen. Hang on, let me try. Let me try stopping, and then I will share. Oh, I might have to actually just share the browser, maybe. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to Columbus app, that one. Oh no. Oh, Chrome tab. I am looking for the little checkbox. Yeah. Okay. Although that might only work. You might not still hear it. We're going to try it. And if you can't hear it, I'm going to put it through my speakers and we'll get ghetto with it. But it's fine right now. Tell me if you hear her or him.
No. Because I think what Ed is saying may be right. Like you have to share your whole desktop, not just the app.
Share my whole desktop. So the only way I know with StreamYard to get your system audio is through Chrome. You have to share a screen or tab. Yeah, I'm gonna try one more time, but if not, we'll just put it through. Just
the one tab, maybe.
Let's see. Share you. Yeah. So when I click like the entire screen, it does not give me the option that whenever you're under Chrome tab, it's like share tab audio. Okay. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna share my Chrome. Yes, you share you, and then I'm gonna put my audio through my internal speakers. And it's going to be a little fancy. Weird. I know, right? We're going to turn this all the way up. And you can let me know.
Some of it.
Banner. Visited. Audio output volume high button.
Sorry.
You are currently on a button. To press this button now in Columbus app. Plus button. You are currently on a button inside of a frame. To click this voiceover off.
Just try and make this as smooth as possible. Essentially, you heard her say plus button when we hit the plus button. But something that is super helpful when you're creating buttons is to make sure that it's as descriptive as possible. So something that you might want to do here is like add new item, right? However,
can I pause you for just 1 second? How did you make it read out the button? Like, how did you enable screen reader?
Oh, right. I'm a horrible teacher. Okay. Well, I open up system preferences. And then you go to, you're only seeing, of course you are. Of course you are. I assumed you could still see my whole screen. Silly me. Share screen. Do it. Okay. So I opened up system preferences, and then I found the accessibility, which is the blue guy. Click on accessibility and go down to voiceover. If it's your first time ever enabling voiceover on Mac, it will make you do voiceover training. Otherwise, you can just enable. And then once you do this, below you'll see on my screen what she's saying. So I hear that in my ear right now. And then I just went over and clicked on the button.
Okay.
So she actually is reading that out right now.
Oh.
And then the thing, so that is how you get into VoiceOver on Mac OS.
Is that like system-wide? Like it's going to do that for every app that you're on?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's not just the web browser, which is great. It's why I sometimes will bounce between the two, because I want to test things that are, maybe you have a desktop app that you want to test. But also, the differences are startling sometimes between screen readers and how they'll handle just different elements, or how like ARIA labels. And we'll talk about some in a minute when I get down to another accessibility tip. But that is what
I was going to ask, like, do people know how to do that in Windows?
Yes, I would love to hear how to do that in Windows, because I actually have a Windows, and one of the tips only works for Microsoft's. You can tell me maybe, Sam, how to say it. It's like their NVDA. Are you supposed to say NVIDIA?
No, NVIDIA.
Yeah.
That's a graphics card, though.
No, there's a screen reader. Come on, guys. Come on.
I
Somebody
see.
help me out
What
here.
you're talking about. I'm drawing a blank on the name.
But I am pretty. Hang on. Let me see. We're gonna look it up. Microsoft NVDA.
Doesn't like Chrome have its own screen reader?
It does. Okay, so non-visual desktop.
Oh, I see. I was thinking NVIDIA, which is a graphics card. This is non-visual desktop access. Interesting. I don't know about this.
Used NVDA. Please tell me if NVDA is the proper pronunciation. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep saying NVDA. But yes, no, I will actually show Chromevox in a minute, which is just one of many possible screen reader options for your browser only, right? So it's not going to work for desktop apps.
Right.
But so something that you can do is add descriptive buttons, but our design calls for a plus, right? It doesn't want add new item, because you may or may not have seen on the screen when I clicked on it, it said add new item button. And so it announces that. And that's kind of what we want, but we don't want it visually. And so we can keep our plus. And this is where we're just going to layer this little guy in here of ARIA label. And add new item. And let's save that, pull this back up, enable, and I'm going to put my audio on my internal speakers.
VoiceOver on system application 68.4%. Chrome, Columbus Activug, Google, you are currently on a button. To click this button, press caps lock, space. Add new item, button. VoiceOver off.
So instead of her announcing the symbol plus, she now announces add new item and then button, which is great. It's wonderful. It's one step towards it, but we're not there. We're not fully there yet. So I'm going to put my sound. Oh, hang on. I'm going to put my sound back on Scarlett, and then if I, on my next thing, stop screen sharing, I'm going to only share my Chrome, because you should be able to hear her now. Perfect. Okay, beautiful. So let's see. Our next thing, we ensured that our buttons are descriptive. Let's wrap it in a form. All right. So something that you can do to help different assistive technologies is to wrap it in a form. I know that, it's a to-do app, right? Like there's an input and there's a button. So what's the point? But it only really costs you to do that, right? That didn't cost that much. Whereas it really might help the flow of some assistive technologies. So just do it, just wrap it in a form. Don't argue about it. Don't give me any guffaws, all right? So ensure your buttons are descriptive, wrap it in a form. Don't skip on the labels. So right now, our input button doesn't have a label. And I don't know about you, Sam, but there is like, nobody uses labels anymore. Am I right? Like, it's so guffaw. There's some cool things you can do, like turn your placeholder into a label and be fancy. And I think even some of our UI components do that by default, right? Like goes back and forth when you select the input, the placeholder turns into the label, which is all cool and good and all, except for then you have to think to yourself what's happening on the screen reader side of life right now. And so even if we visually don't want a label, we can take care of that, right? We can hide this, but we still need to be responsible and give our input a label. So it needs 4 that matches an ID. So it's going to be for our to-do item. And then this one, maybe to-do input, since we're going to have to-do items below. And then this input, hopefully that's not, the font's not really throwing you all off and like in your face, needs the ID that matches that. To-do, and I don't know if to-do is 1 word or 2 words. Maybe chat could finally tell me, solve the riddle. Is it 1 word? Is it 2? Is it supposed to be camel case? I don't know. Somebody help. Okay. So the label is matching now, and we're going to give it, actually, let me double check. Yes. Let's say add a new to-do item, perhaps, perchance. New to-do item. And then, yes, it's there. It's ugly. We don't want it in our lives. But guess what? The screen reader is going to read it. So the next step is an amazing thing that I recently learned. And I'm going to pull this from the A11Y project website. Okay. Can you see this tab? Or is it only sharing?
Not yet.
You cannot see it. Pickles on a stick. Okay. One day we will stop changing what we're sharing. One day. So this is a beautiful article, which I will plop in the chat. And it talks about visually hidden. If you Google the words visually hidden class, you will find it. But also, there it is. And essentially, if you think about this, we have ways of hiding this, right? We could say display none, or we could, which would fully remove it from the page, therefore wouldn't be read by a screen reader. Or we could change its opacity, but then its height would still be there. So then we'd have to collapse it, right? Like there's some janky ways of getting around this, but I really love this because this is the recommended way. If we scroll down with visually hidden, I'm gonna like blub, blub, blub it, blub it, blub it. This is the recommended way to hide things that you don't want visually seen, but that are there for assistive technologies. Love it, absolutely love it. Use it, bookmark it, whatever you need to. I don't have this memorized. Watch me copy it, right? This is what you should be doing. Nobody memorized that. I mean, you could if you really wanted. I'm going to put it at the very bottom of my doc. And then for our label, I'm going to give it a class that matches the visually hidden.
This is very nice.
It's beautiful. Yeah, and you can read more. Hidden. You have to spell it right.
Oh,
you read more about it. Save.
Code with Sean met you at KCDC. Huh.
What? Yeah? What? Who?
Yeah. Code with Sean.
Hi.
Sean, what's your last name? Maybe Alyssa can remember better.
I'm like sweating under these lights, so I just told my AC to turn on. Sorry about that. Okay. Hey, Code with Sean. Yes, we did meet, and it was glorious.
I wasn't part of the party. I see how it goes.
You know, this is what you
Did
get.
I mention?
This
Sean?
is what
remember.
you get for going to bed at 9:30. I'm just gonna put it out there. All right, I sacrificed my sleep, Sam. Oh, no, seriously though, we have a running bet that I can get you to come and hang out with everybody late at night. So I'm gonna need you to help me make some dollars.
My next lifetime, I want to have like half the energy as Alyssa Nicoll here.
Water. It's very important. Everyone be hydrating. Yeah. Okay. So we added a label, but we didn't want it around. So we used the visually hidden to hide it. I don't need this off anymore, but I am going to now show you.
We can't see your screen yet. Oh, actually.
Yes. I know. I was getting there, darling. 1 second. Okay. So now I'm sharing my screen. And I'm going to go enable Chromebox, which is a Chrome extension. It's spelled VOX. It's just Chromebox. It's not very fancy. And I have it in my extensions, and I just go to Chrome extensions to enable it or disable it. So it's enabled right now. And I'm going to go back over to my application.
What is that? What is that noise coming? Is that you?
Did you hear it?
Or is it me? Yeah, it's like.
Is it the scratching noise my dog is making?
Oh, it is literally a noise. It's not just something from.
I don't know. My dog's trying to get the blanket on top of him, and it's currently under him. I don't think it's going to happen. He's kind of rotund. Also, did you hear Chromebox just now, or is that not working?
No, we didn't hear anything.
Did not. Okay. I had hopes. I'm assuming you're still not hearing him because he's talking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to put it on internal speakers, and we are going to share my screen.
Share screen.
No, we do hear it.
Columbus app dev tab. Save button.
So now I'm going to click into the input.
Add a new to-do item within e.g. buy milk. Edit text.
Okay. So it said, add a new to-do item. Like it read the label that was visually hidden. So we proved that concept. It also read the placeholder on the input, e.g. buy milk. And then it let the user know, like, you can edit the text now, like you're in the input. And so now if we're like, blobby, blobby, and then we hit the button.
Okay, I have a question here.
Not found.
Blah. That's because I didn't prevent the default.
Add new item.
Yes, darling. Let me go and show you this extension. So this is where the screen reader is that I am enabling / disabling. And it's just Chromebox. It's a very...
Mm-hmm.
Tell me your question. You had one.
So the ARIA label thing that you did on the button, is that universally accepted across Chromium and Safari AppKit or other browsers? Is it like a standard CSS? Like the ARIA label, the add new button.
Label, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, ARIA label is very, 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 very standard, very, very common. I wonder if Can I Use covers it. Can I use? Why are you not like auto-suggesting? ARIA label. So looking pretty good, I think. Maybe.
Pretty much all evergreen browsers.
I don't know what you count as good, but yes.
Well, I mean, if you are used to use, if you're having to support IE 6 and 7, we offer a thing called Hugs as a service. Otherwise, you're good.
Is that a joke? Was that a joke? Like Hugs? That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, so I don't know if you heard him announce it. My Chromebox is a guy and my voiceover is a girl, so I can tell the difference between them. But he did announce our label. He did announce our placeholder. And then on button click, once I prevent our default, because it's 404ing on me, he will announce the ARIA label on the button as well. So we're getting there, right? We're layering on things. We're using as semantic as we can be. But let's see. Let me know if there's anything in chat. I saw something bubble up over there. Let me pull up my notes.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, just folks liking what you see.
Beautiful. Okay, so next up is wrapping all of this goodness, right? We have our form here, but we also have our UL where our to-do items will be populated. We've got an empty state. All of this belongs with, in my mind, a to-do wrapper of sorts. And this is what, because as the app expands, it's probably going to be more than just a to-do list. So old Alyssa would do this and be like, clash of to-do wrapper. Also, I don't think you heard this, but one of my screen readers says to-do instead of to-do when I put them as one word here, like in the hidden label. So I decided to separate them, if nothing else, for the screen reader, right? It's not seen anyways, so that she would pronounce to do. So yes. But up here in the class, I'm gonna one word it, and you all can let me know how you feel about it. So this is what I would have done in the past. Just created a div that's called my wrapper. And this is great for, well, you know, encapsulating your styles inside of to-do wrapper, perhaps if you want to do that. Maybe even differentiating this section from another section. But what the new Alyssa has learned is that divs and spans are unsemantic garbage, right? that we use everywhere, but they don't really mean a lot. And there is a perfect element for this case called the section, right? The section is what we need in our lives. It's just a little bit more semantic than a div or a span. And the next thing that I'm going to teach you, it works on all sorts of wrapping elements, but we're going to add a bit more pizzazz to our section here by associating it with an H1. And this is that Microsoft NVDA goodness that I promised you. So let's go ahead and create an H1. And we're going to name it, what should I name it? To do, oh, yes. Let's actually be like, I want this part to be seen and heard. And we are going to give it an ID of maybe, because I don't know how many sections we're going to have. I could probably be more semantic with this, but I'm just giving it section 1 for now. Let me know in the chat if you have a better idea. But here's the magic. ARIA labeled by. Beautiful. Love it. Section 1. So what this is doing is allowing us to associate our H1, that header, with our section. And some screen readers, like the Microsoft one, when that section is entered, when it's focused on, the screen reader will actually announce the header that's associated with it. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. I love it. I use it everywhere. ARIA labeled by blew my mind. And yes, so we've kind of been, Sam, let me know if there's any questions or thoughts on where we've gone so far. I think we're ready to just kind of clean up our styles a little bit.
Well, Krish Mikey here is bringing up a point, which I don't know if it's a question or more of a comment. Like some of these, like what's the world organization that guides accessibility? Is it WIA or I'm forgetting here.
Are you talking about? What's the? Are you talking about Warrior? This one? Hang on, I just had it up. The WIA.
Yeah, exactly.
Warrior.
But then there are like like country specific things. So I think ADA is it a US only thing? I don't know. Or I mean,
wait, are you saying why ARIA is US only? Country practice says world. Oh no,
it's like W3C practices, so it shouldn't be. So no, I mean, so I think Krish Mikey is making the point, or maybe asking if this is ADA compliant, because when you're building enterprise apps, like there are some of these guidelines you have to follow. So I want to say yes, because
I'm actually gonna add this to my list because of things to answer. Questions for next time. ADA compliant. I don't know much about ADA, to be honest, so I need to look into that.
Yeah, so Krish Mikey is saying it's Americans with Disabilities. So ADA is a very American, it's a US specific thing, but W3C is not. That's more global.
Okay. I want to, so I'm going to transition a little bit to the end because we've got 10 minutes to go, but I wanted to not only cover some accessibility things, but also some just CSS in general, maintainable styles tips. So we're going to move through this styling it. But before we do that, I'm going to paste in some jQuery that I wrote. Pasty. And cool thing about Codepen, if you don't know, you can go under the settings and choose like preprocessors or add in scripts like jQuery. So that's supported because we had errors before and now we do not. So yeah, I'm just going to show you this like real quick. Document.ready, we're inside it. We have a new item, excellent. This was me testing things out. This was me initially adding, like catching that add button click, but it doesn't work on key up. So that's why we are doing it on form submit instead, right? Because you gotta be accessible even if you're in jQuery. So yes, then I just have the input and I'm prepend, I can't speak. Because if we have time, there's one last accessible thing I wanted to teach about live regions. And so I wanted it to be added last, but let's go ahead and test it. Let's just see. I mean, this isn't really a jQuery show, so I shouldn't receive any judgment if it doesn't work, but hi buttons. Awesome. And then I'm going to type and press my enter. And it worked, and it's all there, and it's prepending, not appending. Awesome. Okay, I'm happy with this. And our event.prevent default. We're not rerouting on form submission. Excellent. All the things I really wanted and more. In case you've just joined us, you joined us late and you didn't see it in chat. Also, the prepending was totally my husband. He knows way more jQuery than I do. Angular girl all the way. And I was like, I want it. I need it on the other end of the list. And he was like, don't use append. And I was like, right. Okay, so because I saw that I got a shout out of love for the prepend, and I can't take credit.
Krish is asking, how do you append, or which one? You got different, right?
Line 11 on the UL. I'm prepending.
Oh, prepend.
This, yes, okay. I'm prepending this gorgeous LI here with the input value in between. Okay. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah. It scares me. Okay, so yes, I think we're ready. I'm going to move through the CSS like a really fast CSS monger. What we're going to do, like I said, with Codepen, you can go ahead and add in scripts. But you can also add in things like Sass. And my main tip for you today on reusable, maintainable CSS is Sass.
Use Sass.
Right. Yep, use Sass.
I made the mistake of asking Ed this morning about less, and apparently there's been a culture war, and
you walked into that one. So you can choose whatever preprocessor suits your heart. I'm using SCSS because I'm not a 100% monster. I don't want to get rid of. My husband loves Sass, and he is a Ruby on Rails dev from back in the day, and so he could live without curly braces, but I cannot. And so I will be using SCSS in today's furthering. Also, what I really love about SCSS is that all CSS is valid SCSS, right? So if you are trying to start adding in Sass into your project, this is the way to go. You layer it in nicely, change the files that you need to change. But reason number one that I like to use Sass or SCSS, if you're new to this, is because of the variables. And I'm going to show the difference between Sass variables and custom properties. I'm going to talk about it for a hot second because we don't have a lot of time. So this, I'm going to just copy paste. This is R blue and R pink. This is how you define a variable in Sass. And then you can go ahead and use it. And so let's go down, and I actually want to make a third one called R green. And it doesn't have to be hex. It can be whatever you're feeling in your heart.
Foolschnabel, while you're typing, Foolschnabel said, as an F# dev, like, forget braces, like we have moved past braces altogether.
What does F# do? What do they have? They just do tabbing, like animals, like what?
Oh boy, you're starting up another culture right here.
What? Okay, background. R green, excellent. I know you've never seen a sexier button in your life. So why Sass? Why SCSS? This is going to, anywhere that you want that green, right? You can go ahead and pull in that variable. But also, it allows you to use it across files. And so if I had multiple files, I would create CSS files. I would create a variables file and variables, and I would name it variables.scss, and then I would import that sucker. And I would be like, @import my variables file, thank you. And then that would give us access to said variables. Right now, we're just doing this in one file, but you can understand then that would allow us to share it between things. And I'm saying variables and not colors because outside of colors, there can even be things like font sizes. And this is an article that I could not be more excited. I'm so glad we had time to get to. It's an article that goes into naming font size variables, which is, I mean, like, it sounds like, really? There's an article on that? Yes. It's a hot topic that many devs and designers argue about. Because if you are creating a website and you're trying to create a variable so that as you use these font sizes everywhere, you might not just use them in your fonts, but in your padding and your margin, right? And do some math on them to make it scale. you want to have a variable. And so you might have, oh yeah, this is going to be our small, and it's going to be 12 pixels. And then this is going to be our large, and it's going to be 40 pixels. And Alyssa used that everywhere. So we're going to be like, anywhere that I said 40, large, perfect. Problem, though, the only way we can go in between these two is medium, right? Like what happens when we need something between medium and small? I mean, I don't know. We could have small dash medium. That makes me want to throw up a little bit. So this article that I shared in the chat with you, it goes into this issue, but then it also goes into different solutions their team came up with. My favorite being animals. Oh my God, I love it so much. Because you can have a mouse and you can have a moose. And then there's like literally 100 animals that are in between those with the sizing, right? I love it so much. Oh, it makes my heart so happy. Hopefully yours too. Something between a mouse and a moose. Go, Sam. Go. Nothing. Yeah, come on, man. There's like a billion animals between a mouse and a moose. Moose is pretty big. Like,
Tiger.
Moose. Tiger, thank you. So at this point, it's very scalable. It allows us to add as many variables between as we need. And then I would not only use this, like I said, for font sizes, but also things like padding, right? Which this is really handy. If you've ever tried building something and like the CSS blew up on you, this can be really handy for keeping track of even like who's using that and why, right? So I love it. Someone said, why not use Starbucks sizes?
You needed like four sizes.
I was going to say, we're only going to be like, we've got like
4.
Paul, Grande, Venti, and then Trenta. So yeah, 4, unless they added 1. There might be like a Doppio size. It's because it's not scalable, son. That's why. Okay. Okay. I want to get this. We got 2 minutes. I'm going to talk fast. I want to get this a little bit prettier because I wanted to show you all that pretty exists. So let's go ahead and I'm going to get rid of that. And what I'm doing is I'm grouping group styles, body, input and button, right at the top. And then as we go down our CSS file, it should be as we go down the page. So I'm styling the button, but I am going to want to style the header. And so I'm going to do that above the button because that's how it is in the markup, right? Like just go down the page, style down the page. And so let's give that, I'm actually going to copy this. I've got some pre-done goodness and we don't have time for me to walk through all of it. So, I know, right? It's beautiful. You're like, I've never seen anything. I know, it could be better, but I thought to myself, why not have all of the colors? So check this out if you're wanting to know what styles I added to it, how I use these variables in some different fun ways. I'm using Flex to get the directional rows that I want, but then also we're going to do this. We're going to do it really fast. I assume you can still see my screen. Maybe,
yes.
Essentially. Awesome! Last point before we end, styling placeholders. So this is in that CSS file already. So if you're clicking on it and perusing it, check out the very bottom. But in order to style placeholders, you need to use fun selectors like these seen below for different browsers. The top one, WebKit input, is for Chrome, Safari, and Opera. And then Moz is for the newer Firefox. Notice the older Firefox only has 1 colon. I don't know why. They hate us. I don't know. And then IE, the last one, MS input. So I really wanted to include this because, first of all, I didn't know about styling placeholders. That's how we're getting that sexy blue color and the italic, right? That's how we're achieving that. But also because I tried doing this and you aren't allowed. You cannot nest them with commas, right? It doesn't work. It's not happy with it. You have to have each one of these in their own individual selector callouts. They can't all be like WebKit input, comma, Moz placeholder, comma, Moz input. Like you can't do that. It won't work. It's bad. Okay, cool. So we learned things today. Like I said, in the bottom of the CSS file are those placeholder styles. So check them out. But I think that's pretty much, we covered visually hidden. Covered a lot of ARIA stuff, and I'm sorry that we didn't get to do more testing with her. I was hoping the share audio would work, but you never know with StreamYard. I don't know, Sham.
Yeah. Let me see if I can send you a link, maybe in our private chat, and you can bring it up. Let's see. So this is the reason why I say like we are starting to speak the same language, because if you talk about some of the semantics to .NET people, we don't always get it, but we are starting to. Because like here's an article from one of the engineers who actually works on the Xamarin team, so .NET, and going into like .NET MAUI, and it is so on point because we speak the same language. It's semantic properties on a lot of the UI, and just like she makes the case right there, like there are over 1 billion people who have some sort of need for assistive technologies, and we can do this by such simple things in our apps that just like broadens the user base. And like any type of visual UI tree, we should start doing these things. And it's not difficult to make these things up.
And you don't even realize how many people you might be supporting, right? So, because it's, I love that. That's like the quote from the Inclusive Components book, where you're not supporting blind people, you're supporting assistive technology. And so many people are using it in ways that you might not realize. So it's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you share that in the chat? Is that in the?
Yeah, I did.
Excellent.
One of my other favorite quotes is, I forget who said it, but like, you know, when you show love and care in your apps, like you drive up the engagement. So like being inclusive, being empathetic, it actually makes a lot of business sense, right? Because it's good for your business. So yeah. Good
I just want to encourage you all, if you're like, I want to get into accessibility, I don't know how. That Inclusive Components book is a beautiful intro, and it shows real life examples. And then also just hunt around, like if you're working on a form, if you're working on a component, whatever, open up a screen reader, like whether it's for your OS or for your browser, and just see what it feels like. See what like that experience is like. And that can lead you to adding like one attribute that helps or assists. And that's one attribute more than you had, right? So don't feel overwhelmed. And hopefully you've been encouraged.
All right, Alyssa, thank you for coming on and sharing your passion, sharing your knowledge, teaching me stuff, teaching everybody stuff. So thank you for your time. All right, folks, so I think that's it for the stream. For those of you who are part of the user group and you signed up on Meetup, you know there's a hidden they're not hidden, but there's a Teams link there. So if you wanted to come and hang out off the internet,
a very secret, no one else is invited link. Yes.
So we'll go hang out there for a few minutes. But that's it for the stream. And folks, we'll see you next month, third Monday evening. This time, we're going to talk about app architectures with Integer Man. That should be a lot of fun. But Alyssa, thank you. Thanks for sharing your energy and all your knowledge. All right, that's it for the stream. Thank you. Bye-bye.